I've waited 4 years for this moment, the billionaire whispered to her, her response shocked. I've waited 4 years for this moment. 18 minutes until I propose. 4 months since we met. 123 days of falling harder for a woman who challenges me, sees me, loves me despite my flaws. The entire community is watching. My heart is pounding. God, please let her say yes. Close your eyes for just a moment. Think about the last time a story made you feel something real. Made your heart race. Made tears fall without permission. Made you remember why being human is so beautifully complicated. That's what we do here at CJ Stories. Whether you're returning or just discovering us, welcome home. This is your safe space for tears, laughter, hope, and everything in between. Today's story will take you somewhere unexpected. It'll make you think. It'll make you feel. And I promise you, you won't see the ending coming. But here's the thing, the magic only works if you stay till the very end. No skipping. No rushing. Just you, me, and a story that might just change how you see the world. If it moves you, let me know you're here, subscribe, like, and share this with someone whose heart needs touching today. Ready? Let's step into today's story. The coffee shop in Charleston's historic district had exactly 3 customers at 6:47 a.m. on a Tuesday in early June 2024, and James Olson was about to become the 4th. He pushed through the door, and the bell chimed soft against the morning quiet. The scent hit him first, dark roast, something with cinnamon, old wood from the exposed beams overhead. His assistant had mentioned this place in passing last week. Small. Local. The kind of spot where people actually talk to each other instead of staring at screens. James was 37 years old, born in 1987, and he'd spent the last 6 years building Olson Technologies from a promising startup into a billion-dollar enterprise. The company's latest AI application had just been acquired by one of the major tech firms for an amount that made even his accountant pause on the phone. But success had a way of feeling hollow when you celebrated alone. He ordered black coffee. No sugar. No cream. The barista, a kid with kind eyes, nodded and got to work. That's when James noticed her. She sat in the corner booth beneath a watercolor painting of Rainbow Row, her laptop open but ignored. A sketchpad rested against her coffee cup, and she was drawing something with complete focus. Her locks fell forward over one shoulder, deep brown against the white of her t-shirt. She had a certain stillness about her, like she existed in her own carefully constructed world and didn't need permission to be there. James found himself staring. Then caught himself and looked away. The barista handed him his coffee. James paid, tipped well, and told himself to find a table. Any table. He chose one by the window where he could pretend to check his phone. He lasted 4 minutes before glancing back at her. She was smiling at whatever she'd drawn. A small smile. Private. The kind that made him wonder what it would take to be led into a moment like that. His phone buzzed. A text from his CFO about the acquisition paperwork. James typed a response, sent it, and realized he'd lost track of his coffee cup. He reached for it without looking. His hand knocked it sideways. The cup tipped. Coffee splashed across the table, across his phone, and started a determined journey toward the edge. James grabbed for napkins that weren't there, his chair scraping loud against the floor. Here. The voice came from beside him. He looked up. She was standing there with a stack of napkins, already pressing them against the coffee flood with calm efficiency. Up close, she was even more striking. Warm brown skin. Eyes that assessed the situation without judgment. A small scar near her temple that made her face more interesting, not less. Thank you, James said, taking some of the napkins and helping. That was graceful of me. Could have happened to anyone. Her voice had a richness to it. Assured. She wasn't just being polite. They worked in tandem, soaking up the spill. Their hands nearly touched over a particularly aggressive puddle. She pulled back first, standing upright with a handful of soaked napkins. Your phone might survive, she said, nodding toward it. Rice and patience. The 2 things I'm worst at. The words came out before James could stop them. She laughed. Actually laughed. It changed her whole face. I'm James. He extended his hand, realized it was damp with coffee, and grimaced. Sorry. Bad timing on the introduction. Alex. She shook his hand anyway. Her grip was firm. Sure. Alex Danvers. Alex Danvers, he repeated, like he was committing it to memory. Can I buy you a coffee? To thank you for the rescue operation? She glanced back at her corner booth where her own cup sat, still half full. I've got one. Another one, then. Or a muffin. Breakfast. Lunch. James heard himself rambling and stopped. I'm not usually this scattered. Alex studied him for a moment. Not suspicious, exactly. More like she was deciding something. Blueberry muffin, she said finally. Warmed, if they'll do it. They'll do it. James would make sure of it. He went to the counter and ordered 2 blueberry muffins, warmed, and another coffee for himself since his was now mostly absorbed into napkins. When he returned to her booth, she'd cleared a space across from her and closed her laptop. The sketch pad was still visible. James caught a glimpse of the drawing, the coffee shop interior, rendered in confident lines. She'd captured the morning light coming through the windows, the empty tables, the sense of quiet sanctuary. "You're an artist," he said, setting the muffin plate between them. "Architect, actually." Alex broke off a piece of muffin. "But I sketch for fun. Helps me think." "What are you thinking about at 6:47 in the morning?" 7:03 now. She smiled. "And I was thinking about a project? Community center renovation over in the East Side neighborhood. The building's got good bones but needs someone who can see past the damage." James knew the area. Knew it needed investment, attention, care that usually got redirected to flashier parts of the city. "That sounds meaningful." "It is." Alex met his eyes. "What about you? What brings you to this specific coffee shop at this specific ungodly hour?" "Insomnia, mostly." James wrapped both hands around his new coffee cup. "And my assistant mentioned this place. Said it was the kind of spot where people still remember your name." "Do you need people to remember your name?" The question wasn't invasive. Just direct. Honest in a way James wasn't used to. "I think I forgot what that feels like," he admitted. "Being a person instead of a position." Alex nodded slowly. She didn't offer platitudes or advice. Just acknowledgement. It was surprisingly comfortable. They sat in easy silence for a moment. James noticed details, the small silver bracelet on her wrist, well worn. The reading glasses tucked into her shirt collar. The way she ate her muffin in small, deliberate bites like she was actually tasting it. "So you build buildings," James said. "And sketch coffee shops. What else?" "That's a broad question from someone I met 4 minutes ago." 7 minutes now. She smiled at that. "Fair. Let's see. I run 5 miles every morning before this coffee stop. I volunteer with Habitat on weekends when I can. I have opinions about the best shrimp and grits in Charleston that I will defend aggressively." "Where?" James leaned forward. "Best shrimp and grits. I need to know." "Hannibal's Kitchen on East Bay. No hesitation. But you have to go on a Saturday, and you have to get there before 11, and you absolutely cannot skip the hot sauce." "Noted." James pulled out his phone, then remembered it was coffee damaged. "I'll remember." "What about you?" Alex asked. What does James do besides spill coffee and charm baristas into warming muffins? He could have given her the rehearsed answer. CEO. Tech sector. Recent acquisition. The elevator pitch he delivered 1,000 times. Instead he said, "I used to build things. Software, applications, systems that solved problems. Now I mostly attend meetings about building things." "You miss it." It wasn't a question. "Yeah," James said quietly. "I really do." Alex broke off another piece of muffin and pushed the plate slightly toward him. A small gesture of sharing. "So build something new. Something that matters to you. Just like that?" "Why not just like that?" She shrugged. "You've clearly got resources. Time. Intelligence, I'm guessing, despite the coffee incident. What's stopping you?" James considered the question. Really considered it. "Fear, probably. That I've been doing the wrong thing so long I forgot how to do the right thing." "Fear's honest, at least." Alex finished her muffin and brushed crumbs from her fingers. "Most people won't even admit that part." The morning light had shifted, coming stronger through the windows now. The coffee shop was filling up with the early crowd, regulars with their routines, tourists with their cameras, students with their textbooks. James didn't want to leave this booth. "Can I ask you something?" He waited for her nod. "Why'd you help me?" "With the coffee. You could have just watched the disaster unfold from a safe distance." Alex considered this. "My dad used to say that small kindnesses cost nothing and return everything. He died 3 years ago, in 2021, and I was 30 when I lost him. But I still hear his voice sometimes, reminding me." She paused. "Plus, you looked genuinely distressed about that spill. It was kind of endearing." "Endearing. I'll take it." James smiled. "I'm sorry about your father." "Thank you." Alex's expression softened. He would have liked this place. The realness of it. They talked for another 20 minutes. Easy conversation that moved from Charleston's architecture to the ethics of AI development to whether pecans belonged in brownies. James learned that Alex had launched her own architectural firm 2 years ago, in 2022, after leaving a corporate position that valued profit over people. She'd taken the risk at 31 and hadn't looked back. He learned that she was 33 now, born in 1991, and that she approached life with a directness he found both intimidating and refreshing. She learned that he'd founded Olsen Technologies at 31, after his engagement fell apart in 2018 when he was 30 years old. That he'd thrown himself into work as a way to avoid feeling anything, and now he had success but wasn't sure what to do with it. "You'll figure it out," Alex said, checking her watch. But I actually have to get to a site meeting in 30 minutes, and I need to not smell like coffee shop. James stood when she did. Manners his mother had drilled into him. Can I see you again? Alex gathered her laptop and sketchpad, taking her time. You know where to find me. 6:47 a.m. Corner booth. Though maybe practice your cup-holding skills first. I'll work on that. James pulled out his wallet and extracted a business card. Hesitated. Business cards felt wrong for this. But he didn't have coffee-damaged phone access to his contacts. Just in case you want to skip the early morning and grab dinner instead. Alex took the card. Read it. Her eyebrows rose slightly. Olsen Technologies. That Olsen Technologies? Yeah. James waited for the shift. The change that always came when people connected him to the company, the money, the status. But Alex just tucked the card into her sketchpad and met his eyes. Dinner sounds nice. But I picked the place, and you can't complain about the location even if it's a hole in the wall. Deal. Relief flooded through him. When? I'll text you. She headed toward the door, then turned back. And James? Bring curiosity. Leave the CEO at the office. Then she was gone, the bell chiming behind her. James stood in the middle of the coffee shop, holding a coffee-stained phone and feeling more awake than he'd felt in years. The barista caught his eye and grinned. She doesn't usually talk to people. No. Nope. Comes in every morning, same time, keeps to herself. You must have made an impression. James looked down at the table where they'd sat, at the muffin crumbs and the napkin still damp with spilled coffee. At the spot where Alex had been sitting when he first saw her, existing in her own world. A world she'd opened just enough to let him peek inside. His phone buzzed in his hand. Miraculously still working despite the coffee bath. A text from an unknown number. Saturday. Hannibal's Kitchen. 10:30 a.m. Don't be late, and prepare your taste buds for revelation. Also, rice works better if you actually put the phone in it instead of just thinking about it. Alex. James laughed out loud. The barista was right. He'd made an impression. But sitting in that booth with Alex, listening to her talk about her father and her work and her fierce opinions about breakfast food, James realized something else. She'd made an impression right back. And for the first time in 4 years, since everything fell apart with his ex-fiancée Victoria in 2018, James felt something shift in his chest. Something like hope. Something like possibility. Something like the beginning of knowing exactly what he'd been missing. He looked at the text again. Smiled. And carefully, very carefully, set his coffee cup down on the table before reaching for his jacket. Some lessons were worth learning. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button for more emotional and heart-touching stories that speak to the soul, and share your thoughts in the comments to tell us which story you want to hear next. Now let us continue. Saturday morning arrived with the kind of humidity that made Charleston feel like a warm embrace. James stood outside Hannibal's Kitchen at 10:22 a.m., 8 minutes early, wearing jeans and a simple white button-down. He'd changed 3 times before settling on casual. The CEO wardrobe stayed in the closet, just like Alex had requested. She appeared at 10:28, walking up East Bay Street with that same self-contained confidence he remembered from the coffee shop. Today she wore a sundress the color of sunrise, her locks pulled back with a patterned scarf. She looked radiant and completely unaware of it. You're early, Alex said, reaching him. Couldn't risk missing the 11 o'clock cutoff. James opened the door for her. Or the hot sauce. The restaurant was small, loud, and absolutely packed. The smell of cooking shrimp and spices filled every corner. They squeezed into the last available table, a two-top near the kitchen where they could hear the cook calling out orders. Alex ordered for both of them without asking. James didn't mind. So, she said, once the waitress left. Did you put your phone in rice? I did. Felt ridiculous doing it, but it worked. Technology CEO brought down by basic household remedy. There's irony there. There's humility there, James corrected. Which I apparently needed. The food arrived faster than expected. James looked down at his plate and understood immediately why Alex had been so insistent. The shrimp were perfectly cooked, the grits creamy with cheese and butter, the sauce rich with flavor that built slowly. He took a bite. Closed his eyes. Okay. You win. This is incredible. I don't say things I don't mean. Alex added hot sauce to her plate with a generous hand. Life's too short for mediocre food or dishonest conversation. They ate in comfortable silence for a few minutes. James watched her enjoy her meal, the way she savored each bite, fully present in the moment. It was a quality he'd forgotten existed, that ability to be exactly where you were. Tell me about the community center project, he said. The one you were thinking about at the coffee shop. Alex wiped her mouth with her napkin, considering. It's a building that served the East Side neighborhood for 40 years. Youth programs, senior services, job training. Then funding dried up, the roof started leaking, and the city condemned it 5 years ago. It's been sitting empty since 2019. But you see something there. I see what it was and what it could be again. Her eyes lit up when she talked about it. The structure is solid. Beautiful old bones, high ceilings, natural light. With the right investment and design, it could serve 3 times as many people as it did before. What's stopping it? Money, mostly. The neighborhood coalition has some funding, but not enough for the full renovation. And contractors keep bidding high because they see risk instead of potential. Alex stabbed a shrimp with more force than necessary. It's frustrating. This community deserves better than empty promises and abandoned buildings. James filed that information away carefully. How much of a gap are we talking about? Why? Alex looked at him directly. You thinking of writing a check to impress me? No. James met her gaze steadily. I'm thinking about understanding a problem that clearly matters to you. There's a difference. She studied him for a long moment, then nodded. About 200,000. Which doesn't sound like much in the grand scheme, but it might as well be 2 million for a neighborhood that's been overlooked for decades. What if you had the funding? Could you make it happen? In my sleep. No hesitation. I've already got the designs drawn up. Permits ready. A contractor I trust on standby. I just need the green light. James wanted to solve this for her right there. Pull out his phone, make a call, transfer the money before they finished breakfast. But he remembered her words at the coffee shop. Small kindnesses cost nothing and return everything. This wasn't small, and it wasn't his story to take over. You'll find a way, he said instead. Someone with your clarity and passion doesn't stop until the work gets done. Alex smiled, and it transformed her whole face. I like that you said, when, not if. I meant it as, when. They finished breakfast and walked out into the late morning heat. The waterfront was close, and without discussing it, they both turned toward it. Tourism season was building, but the harbor still had its charm, sailboats dotting the water, the bridge stretching across to Mount Pleasant, the salt smell mixing with pluff mud. Can I ask you something personal? Alex said as they walked. After that breakfast, you can ask me anything. What happened with your engagement? You mentioned it fell apart in 2018, but you didn't say why. James had deflected this question dozens of times over the past 6 years, given vague answers about timing and compatibility. But something about the way Alex asked, direct but not invasive, made him want to answer honestly. Her name was Victoria. We met at a tech conference, got engaged fast. Maybe too fast. He watched a sailboat tack across the harbor. She loved the idea of what I could become. The success, the status, the life we'd build. But when I was actually building it, putting in 80-hour weeks, sleeping at the office, she felt neglected. Said I cared more about code than people. Did you? Yeah. James exhaled slowly. I did. I was so focused on proving something, making something, that I forgot to actually be present with the person I supposedly loved. She left in December 2018. I was 30 years old and convinced I'd failed at the one thing that mattered. So you threw yourself into work even harder. Seemed logical at the time. Turns out you can build $1 billion company and still feel empty. Alex stopped walking. They were near the pineapple fountain now, water dancing in the sunlight. You know what I think? What? I think you learned what doesn't work. That's not failure. That's data. James laughed, surprised. You sound like a scientist. I'm an architect. We test theories all the time. Sometimes the structure holds, sometimes it needs reinforcement, sometimes you have to tear it down and start over. She turned to face him fully. The engagement didn't work because you were building a company instead of a relationship. Okay. Now you know. Question is, what do you do with that information? Build better next time. Exactly. Alex started walking again. My turn for personal history. Fair's fair. I'm listening. I was engaged once too. His name was Marcus. She paused, caught herself. Actually, his name was Derek. Derek Morrison. We met in grad school, got serious fast, planned this whole future. He proposed when I was 28, back in 2019. James noted the timeline carefully. What happened? My dad got sick. Cancer. Needed full-time care for the last year of his life. Alex's voice stayed steady, but James heard the grief underneath. Derek was supportive at first. But when it became clear I was choosing family over career advancement, over our timeline, over the wedding planning, he couldn't handle it. Said he didn't sign up to be a caretaker's partner. He left while your father was dying. 3 months before Dad passed. February 2021. I was 30 years old, watching my father fade, and the man I thought I'd marry decided it was too hard. She looked out at the water. Dad told me it was a gift. That Derek showed me who he was before I legally tied myself to him. Your father sounds like he was a wise man. The wisest. Alex smiled, but her eyes were wet. He made me promise something before he died. Made me swear I wouldn't settle for half-love or convenient partnerships. Said I deserved someone who showed up for the hard parts, not just the easy ones. James felt something shift in his chest. Understanding, maybe. Recognition. That's why you're so direct. Life's too short for anything less than honesty. Exactly. Alex brushed at her eyes quickly. Sorry. I don't usually get emotional about this anymore. Don't apologize. Your grief is honest. I appreciate that. They walked in silence for a while, finding a bench near the water. The sun was high now, bright and warm. Families passed by with strollers and ice cream. A street musician played guitar somewhere close, the music drifting over. Can I tell you something strange? James said. Please. I've had more real conversation with you in 1 week than I've had in the past year combined. Maybe longer. Alex turned to look at him. That's not strange. That's sad. Both, maybe. What do you actually want, James? The question was gentle but searching. Not what you're supposed to want. Not what makes good business sense. What do you actually want from your life? No one had asked him that in years. James sat with the question, letting it settle. I want to build something that matters, he said finally. Not for profit or status, but because it genuinely helps people. I want to wake up excited about the work instead of dreading another board meeting. And I want, he stopped, surprised by what he was about to say. You want what? I want to share it with someone. The excitement, the challenges, the quiet moments. I want a partner who sees me, not the company or the bank account. Someone who calls me out when I'm hiding behind work and celebrates with me when things go right. Alex was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, that's a good answer. What about you? What do you want? I want my work to mean something beyond aesthetics. I want to design spaces that strengthen communities, that give people dignity and hope. She paused. And I want someone who isn't afraid of my intensity. Someone who understands that my passion for my work doesn't diminish my capacity to love. It enhances it. James looked at her profile against the harbor light. The strength in her posture. The clarity in her voice. The absolute certainty of someone who knew herself completely. Derek was an idiot, he said quietly. Alex laughed, surprised. That's what my best friend says. Your best friend is right. They sat together watching the water, the comfortable silence between them deepening into something more significant. James felt it, the pull toward this woman who challenged him and saw him and didn't need him to be anything other than exactly who he was. His phone buzzed. A text from his assistant about Monday's meetings. James glanced at it and put the phone away. You can answer that, Alex said. I'd rather be here. She smiled. Good choice. By the time they left the waterfront, it was past 1 p.m. James walked Alex back toward her car, not ready for the morning to end but aware that she probably had weekend plans. I sketch at White Point Garden on Sunday mornings, Alex said as they reached her vehicle. If you want to join me, bring coffee. Don't bring work calls. What time? 8 a.m. By the gazebo. I'll be there. James hesitated, then took a chance. Alex, I really enjoy spending time with you. I enjoy spending time with you too. She unlocked her car but didn't get in yet. You're different than I expected. Different how? More real. More willing to be vulnerable. I thought a tech billionaire would be all polish and performance. She met his eyes. But you're just a person trying to figure out what comes next. I respect that. I'm trying to figure out a lot of things. James took a small step closer. But this, spending time with you, feels like the first thing that's made sense in a long time. Alex held his gaze. Something passed between them, unspoken but understood. A recognition. A possibility. Sunday, she said softly. 8 a.m. Don't be late. I won't be. She got in her car and drove away. James stood on the sidewalk, watching until her taillights disappeared around the corner. His phone buzzed again. More messages. More demands on his time and attention. James silenced it and started walking. He had the whole afternoon ahead of him, and for the first time in 6 years, he didn't want to spend it working. He wanted to think about a woman with fierce opinions about breakfast food and an even fiercer commitment to her community. About the way she'd shared her grief without apology and asked him hard questions without judgment. About the fact that he was already counting the hours until Sunday morning. Sunday arrived clear and perfect. James showed up at White Point Garden at 7:52 a.m. with 2 cups of coffee from their original meeting place and a sense of anticipation he hadn't felt since he was a teenager. Alex was already there, sitting on a blanket near the gazebo with her sketchpad open. She looked up when he approached, and her smile was worth every early morning. You brought the good coffee, she said, accepting the cup he offered. I'm a fast learner. James sat beside her on the blanket. Close enough to see what she was drawing, the old oak trees with their hanging moss, the way the morning light filtered through the branches. You're really talented, he said, watching her work. It's meditation for me. Helps me see things clearly. What are you seeing clearly today? Alex set down her pencil and turned to face him. That I like you, James Olsen. More than I expected to like someone I met exactly 1 week ago. His heart kicked in his chest. I like you too, Alex Danvers. Considerably more than is probably reasonable for 1 week. So what do we do about that? James reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away. When she didn't, he brushed his fingers against hers. The touch was electric. We could see where this goes, he said quietly. No expectations. No timelines. Just honest exploration. Alex laced her fingers through his. I'd like that. But I need you to know something first. Okay. I don't do games. I don't do casual. If we're doing this, I need full presence and honest communication. And if it stops working, we talk about it like adults. I can do that. James squeezed her hand gently. I want to do that. Good. Alex leaned closer, her shoulder touching his. Then let's see where this goes. They sat together in the garden as the morning unfolded around them. James felt something he hadn't felt in years, contentment. Peace. The sense that he was exactly where he needed to be. And when Alex went back to her sketching, keeping her hand in his, James understood that something significant had just begun. Something worth showing up for. Something real. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button for more emotional and heart-touching stories that speak to the soul, and share your thoughts in the comments to tell us which story you want to hear next. Now let us continue. 3 weeks had passed since that Sunday morning in White Point Garden, bringing them into early July 2024. James had fallen into a rhythm he didn't know he'd been craving: early morning coffee with Alex at their spot, weekend dinners at places she chose, late evening phone calls that stretched past midnight. He'd learned that she hummed while sketching, preferred tea after 8 p.m., and had a laugh that made everything else fade into background noise. She'd learned that he was ticklish behind his left ear, could actually cook when he tried, and went completely still when he was thinking through a problem. They were sitting in her small office on a Thursday afternoon, James watching her finalize the community center designs while pretending to answer emails. The space was cramped but efficient: drafting table, reference books, a small couch where he'd stationed himself with his laptop. You're staring, Alex said without looking up. I'm observant. That's what people say when they're staring. She turned to face him, amusement in her eyes. Something on your mind? James set his laptop aside. He'd been thinking about this for days, trying to find the right approach. I want to talk to you about something. But I need you to hear me out completely before responding. Alex's expression shifted to attention. All right, the community center project. I've been thinking about it since you first mentioned it. He kept his voice even, factual. I want to fund the gap. The full 200,000. She started to speak. He held up a hand gently. Please let me finish. This isn't about impressing you or buying your affection. It's not charity or pity. It's an investment in something that matters, designed by someone I trust completely. James leaned forward. I've spent 6 years making money for shareholders and investors. I want to put resources toward something that actually strengthens a community. Your vision does that. Alex sat back in her chair, processing. Her face was unreadable. I know this is significant, James continued. And I know we've only been seeing each other for a few weeks. But I've reviewed similar projects, looked at the numbers, talked to my financial team. This is sound. The neighborhood needs it. You can execute it. Let me help make it happen. The silence stretched between them. James waited, his heart beating faster than he wanted to admit. Can I speak now? Alex asked quietly. Please. She stood up, walked to the window, looked out at the street below. When she turned back, her expression was complicated, gratitude mixed with something else James couldn't quite read. That's incredibly generous, she said carefully. And I appreciate that you've thought it through seriously. But I need to ask you something, and I need you to be completely honest. Okay. Is this about the project, or is this about us? James considered the question. Both. I believe in the project because you've shown me why it matters. And I want to support it because I care about you and the work you do. Those things aren't separate for me. They need to be. Alex crossed her arms, not defensively, but like she was holding something fragile. James, I've worked really hard to build my firm on my own merit. Every project I've landed, every client I've served, it's been because of my skills and reputation. Not because of connections or favors or relationships. I understand that. Do you? She moved closer, her voice still calm but intense. Because taking a significant investment from someone I'm romantically involved with changes the dynamic. It makes people question whether I earned this opportunity or whether I'm getting special treatment because I'm dating a billionaire. The word stung, but James understood where they came from. No one who knows your work would question your abilities. You'd be surprised what people question about women in my field. Alex sat on the edge of her desk. Especially black women. I've spent my whole career proving I belong at the table. I can't afford to give people ammunition to dismiss my accomplishments. James felt the conversation shifting, the careful ground between them becoming unstable. So what are you saying? I'm saying I need to think about this. Really think about it. She met his eyes. And I need you to respect that this isn't a simple yes or no. It's complicated. I can respect that. James stood, gathering his laptop. Take whatever time you need. The offer stands regardless of what happens between us personally. That's what I'm worried about. James paused. What do you mean? Alex took a breath, choosing her words carefully. If I say yes and we don't work out, then I've accepted money from an ex. That gets messy. If I say no and we do work out, I've potentially hurt a community I care about because I was protecting my pride. Either way, I can't win cleanly. There's a third option, James said quietly. You say yes or no based purely on what's right for the project and the community. We keep the personal and professional separate. Can we though? Alex's voice was gentle but firm. Can you honestly tell me that our relationship won't factor into how you feel about this investment? James opened his mouth to say yes, then stopped. Because she was right. He cared about the project, truly cared, but he'd be lying if he said his feelings for Alex weren't part of why he wanted to help. I care about both, he admitted. The work and you. I don't know how to untangle those things. That's honest. I appreciate that. Alex walked over to him, close enough that he could smell her perfume. I need some time to figure out what the right choice is. Can you give me that without it affecting us? Of course. James resisted the urge to touch her, sensing she needed space. Whatever you decide, I support it. She nodded, but something had shifted in her expression. A guardedness that hadn't been there before. James left her office feeling like he'd made a mistake, though he couldn't pinpoint exactly where. 2 days later, on Saturday morning, they met for coffee as planned. But the ease between them felt strained. Alex was quieter than usual, and James found himself second-guessing every word before he spoke it. I talked to the neighborhood coalition, Alex said finally, stirring her coffee without drinking it. Told them about your offer. James waited. They're thrilled, obviously. This funding would change everything for them. She looked up. But they asked me the same question I asked you. They wanted to make sure this was a legitimate investment and not a personal favor that could fall through. What did you tell them? That you're a serious businessman who's reviewed the project thoroughly. Alex set down her spoon. But James, they're going to find out we're seeing each other. Charleston's not that big. And when they do, they're going to wonder about my judgment. Your judgment is impeccable. Anyone who knows you knows that. You're not hearing me. There was frustration in her voice now, though she kept it controlled. This isn't about what I know or what you know. It's about perception. And in my field, perception affects everything. James felt his own frustration rising. So what do you want me to do? Pretend I don't care about you? Pretend I don't want to help with work that matters? I want you to understand why this is complicated for me. I do understand. I'm trying to understand. He ran a hand through his hair. But it feels like you're pushing me away because I want to support something you care about. I'm not pushing you away. I'm trying to protect something I've built. Alex's voice rose slightly, then she caught herself, took a breath. I'm sorry. I don't want to fight about this. We're not fighting. We're talking. But even as James said it, he knew it felt like more than talking. It felt like the first real crack in what they'd been building. They finished their coffee in uncomfortable silence. When Alex said she needed to get to a site visit, James didn't suggest coming along like he might have a week ago. He watched her leave and felt the distance between them growing. The following Tuesday, James's assistant knocked on his office door with unusual hesitance. There's someone here to see you, she said. She doesn't have an appointment, but she says it's important. Her name is Victoria Hastings. James felt his stomach drop. Victoria. His ex-fiancée from 2018. He hadn't seen or spoken to her in 6 years. Send her in. Victoria walked into his office looking exactly as he remembered, polished, professional, blonde hair styled perfectly. She smiled, but it didn't quite reach her eyes. James. It's been a long time. 6 years. He didn't stand, didn't offer pleasantries. What do you want, Victoria? Direct as always. She sat in the chair across from his desk uninvited. I heard about the acquisition. Congratulations. You built exactly what you said you would. Thank you. That doesn't answer my question. Victoria's smile tightened. I'm working with a venture capital firm now. We're interested in some of your smaller subsidiaries. I thought we could discuss a potential partnership. You came here for business. Partially. She leaned forward. But I also wanted to see you. To apologize for how things ended between us. I was young and impatient, and I didn't understand what you were building. James felt nothing. No anger, no longing, not even curiosity. Just a distant recognition of someone who used to matter. The apology isn't necessary. We both moved on. Have we? Victoria's eyes searched his face. I've thought about you often over the years. Wondered if we gave up too easily. If maybe the timing was just wrong. The timing was fine. We were wrong for each other. James stood, signaling the conversation was over. If your firm wants to submit a proposal, send it through proper channels. But Victoria, I'm with someone now. Someone who matters to me. This conversation is inappropriate. Something flickered across her face. Surprise, maybe hurt. I see. Well, I hope she appreciates what she has. She does. We appreciate each other. Victoria stood, gathering her designer handbag. For what it's worth, I am sorry. You deserved better than what I gave you back then. After she left, James sat in his office feeling unsettled. The conversation had been brief and meaningless, but he knew he needed to tell Alex about it. Transparency was what they'd promised each other. He called her that evening. Got voicemail. Left a message asking her to call back. She didn't. He tried again the next morning. This time she answered, but her voice was distant. I've been thinking, Alex said before he could mention Victoria's visit. About us and the timing and everything that's happening. James felt dread settle in his chest. Okay. I think I need some space. Not a break, not ending things, just some room to figure out what I want without the intensity of seeing you every day. This is about the community center funding. It's about a lot of things. Her voice was sad. It's about me needing to make sure I'm choosing this relationship for the right reasons. That I'm not getting swept up in how good it feels without thinking about the complications. Alex, we can work through complications. That's what people do when they care about each other. I know. And I do care about you, James. That's why I need this space. To make sure I'm thinking clearly. James wanted to argue, to convince her, to fix whatever was breaking between them. But he remembered what she'd asked for weeks ago, honest communication and respect for her process. How much space? He asked quietly. I don't know. A week maybe. I just need to get some clarity. All right. It hurt to say it. I'll respect that. But Alex, I need you to know something. What? This, what we have, it's real for me. Whatever complications exist, I want to work through them with you. Not apart from you. There was a long pause. I know. I'll call you soon. The line went dead. James sat in his penthouse apartment overlooking Charleston Harbor, the same view he'd had for 3 years, and felt more alone than he had in all the time before Alex walked into his life. His phone sat silent on the coffee table. No good morning texts. No random observations about architecture or breakfast food. No late-night conversations that made him forget why he'd ever thought success was measured in profit margins. Just silence. And the growing fear that in trying to support the woman he was falling for, he'd somehow pushed her away instead. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button for more emotional and heart-touching stories that speak to the soul, and share your thoughts in the comments to tell us which story you want to hear next. Now let us continue. 1 week turned into 9 days. 9 days of James checking his phone more times than he wanted to admit, of driving past their coffee shop without stopping, of starting text messages he never sent. It was a Thursday in mid-July when his assistant interrupted a conference call with an apologetic look. I'm sorry, but there's someone from the Eastside Community Coalition here. She says it's urgent regarding Alex Danvers. James ended the call immediately. Send her in. A woman in her 60s entered, her expression worried. Mr. Olson, I'm Dorothy Baptiste. I'm the chair of the coalition Alex has been working with. Is she all right? The question came out more urgent than James intended. Physically, yes. But there's been a development. Dorothy sat down heavily. The building inspector found structural issues we didn't know about. The damage is more extensive than the initial assessment showed. The project cost just jumped by another $300,000. James felt his chest tighten. What did Alex say? She's devastated. She's been working day and night to find alternative solutions, value engineering, anything to make the numbers work. But Mr. Olson, without additional funding, this project is dead. And Alex is blaming herself like it's her fault the building deteriorated. It's not her fault. I know that. You know that. But she's taking it personally. Dorothy leaned forward. She told us about your original offer. And she told us why she hesitated to accept it. I respect her principles, I truly do. But right now, that community needs the center, and Pride isn't going to rebuild it. James stood, pacing to the window. Has she asked you to come here? No. She'd probably be upset if she knew I was talking to you. Dorothy's voice was kind but firm. But I've known Alex since she was a little girl. Her father was my neighbor, my friend. I watched her care for him those last months, watched her grieve, watched her build herself back up. And I'm watching her now, trying to carry the weight of an entire community's hope on her shoulders alone. What do you want me to do? I want you to understand something about Alex. Dorothy stood, meeting his eyes. Her father taught her that accepting help wasn't weakness. He taught her that community meant supporting each other. But Derek, her ex-fiancé, he taught her that needing help made her a burden. That asking for support meant she was failing. James felt anger flash through him at the mention of Derek's name. Alex is stuck between those two lessons, Dorothy continued. Between her father's wisdom and Derek's cruelty. She wants to accept help, but she's terrified it means she's not enough on her own. She's more than enough. Then tell her that. Not with money, though Lord knows we need it. Tell her with your presence. Show her that supporting someone you care about isn't about them being weak. It's about you being strong enough to share the load. After Dorothy left, James sat at his desk for a long time. Then he picked up his phone and called his attorney. I need you to draft something specific, he said. A grant structure through my foundation. Anonymous, ironclad, no strings attached. I'll send you the details. He spent the next 3 hours working out the logistics. The grant would cover the full amount needed, dispersed through proper channels, set up so that even if his relationship with Alex ended, the funding would remain secure. No personal entanglements. No leverage. Just clean, professional support for a worthy community project. It wasn't perfect. But it was honest. Then he drove to Alex's office. Her car was in the parking lot, lights on in her second-floor window despite it being past 8 p.m. James sat in his car for a moment, gathering his thoughts. He hadn't seen her in 9 days. Hadn't heard her voice except in his memory. He missed her so much it was a physical ache. James climbed the stairs and knocked on her door. Come in, her voice called, distracted. He opened the door. Alex was at her drafting table, surrounded by papers and drawings, her hair pulled back messily, exhaustion evident in every line of her body. She looked up and froze. James. He stayed in the doorway, giving her space. Can we talk? Alex set down her pencil slowly. Dorothy came to see you. She did. She's worried about you. She shouldn't have done that. But there was no heat in the words, just tiredness. She loves you. People who love you worry. James took a careful step inside. Can I sit? Alex nodded toward the small couch. James sat, watching her gather herself. Even exhausted and stressed, she was beautiful. Even hurting, she was strong. I heard about the structural issues, he said quietly. I'm sorry. I know how much this project means to you. It's not about me. It's about the community. Alex rubbed her eyes. I promised them something I can't deliver. That's on me. No, it's not. You didn't cause the damage. You didn't hide the problems. You're just trying to solve them, same as you solve everything else. By failing. By caring enough to try. James leaned forward. Alex, I need to tell you something, and I need you to listen without interrupting. Can you do that? She looked at him for a long moment, then nodded. I've set up a grant through my foundation. Anonymous, processed through proper nonprofit channels, enough to cover the full project cost including the new structural issues. It's not coming from me personally. It's institutional funding with oversight and accountability. The coalition will apply like any other grant applicant, and the decision will be made by the foundation board, not me. Alex opened her mouth. James held up a hand gently. I'm not done. This grant exists whether we're together or not. Whether you ever speak to me again or not. It's not leverage. It's not a gift with expectations. It's a legitimate funding source for a worthy project. That's separate from us. Completely separate. James. Still not done. He smiled slightly. I also need to tell you that my ex-fiancée Victoria showed up at my office 2 weeks ago. She wanted to talk business and implied she wanted to revisit our relationship. I told her no. I told her I was with someone who mattered to me. I should have told you immediately, but then you asked for space, and I didn't want to complicate things further. That was wrong. I'm sorry. Alex was staring at him now, her expression unreadable. One more thing. James's voice dropped softer. These past 9 days without you have been some of the longest of my life. Not because I can't function alone. I did that for 6 years just fine. But because I don't want to. I don't want to have coffee by myself when I could hear your thoughts about whatever you're designing. I don't want to see something beautiful and not be able to share it with you. I don't want to figure out who I'm becoming without you there to challenge me and support me and call me out when I'm hiding behind work. He stood, moving closer but not touching her. You asked for space to figure out if you're choosing this relationship for the right reasons. I respect that. But I need you to know that I'm choosing you for all the right reasons. Because you're brilliant and passionate and honest. Because you make me want to be better. Because when I'm with you, I remember what it feels like to be fully alive. Alex's eyes were wet. She stood slowly, facing him. I've been terrified, she said quietly. Sitting here alone, trying to solve impossible problems, and all I wanted to do was call you. Ask for your help. Lean on you. And that scared me so much, James. Why? Because the last time I leaned on someone, he left. He made me feel like my needs were too much, like I was too much. And I promised myself I'd never be that vulnerable again. Her voice cracked slightly. But then you showed up with your spilled coffee and your honest eyes, and you made me want to try. You're not too much. James stepped closer. You're exactly right. Your passion isn't a burden. Your dedication isn't a flaw. And needing support sometimes doesn't make you weak. It makes you human. I know that in my head. My heart is still catching up. Then let me help your heart catch up. James reached for her hand carefully. Let me prove that I'm not Derek. That I show up for the hard parts, not just the easy ones. That's what your father wanted for you, remember? Someone who stays. Alex looked down at their joined hands. The grant. You really structured it so it's separate from us? Completely. My attorney has the documents. You can review every detail. It's legitimate institutional funding. And if we don't work out? The grant stands. The community gets their center. Your design gets built. That's non-negotiable. James squeezed her hand gently. But Alex, I really don't want us to not work out. She laughed, a wet sound that was half sob. I don't either. I really, really don't. So what do we do? Alex looked up at him, tears on her cheeks but clarity in her eyes. We try. We communicate honestly. We keep the professional and personal as separate as we can. And we trust each other enough to say when something isn't working. I can do all of that. Even the hard conversations? Especially the hard conversations. James lifted his free hand slowly, giving her time to pull away. When she didn't, he brushed the tears from her cheek. I missed you so much. I missed you too. Every single day. Alex leaned into his touch. I'm sorry I pushed you away. I was trying to protect myself, but I was just making us both miserable. You don't have to apologize for having boundaries. You just have to tell me what you need. Right now I need you to hold me. Is that okay? James pulled her close, wrapping his arms around her fully. Alex buried her face in his chest, and he felt her shoulders shake with release. He held her through it, one hand rubbing slow circles on her back, the other cradling her head. I've got you, he murmured. I'm not going anywhere. They stood like that for a long time, the drafting table light casting soft shadows, the city quiet outside. James felt something settle in his chest. Not just relief, though there was that. Something deeper. A certainty. This woman in his arms, strong and vulnerable and absolutely herself. This was what he'd been missing. This was what mattered. Eventually, Alex pulled back enough to look up at him. Her eyes were red but clear. I want to try this for real, she said. Not halfway. Not with one foot out the door in case it gets hard. All in. All in, James agreed. Through the complicated parts and the easy parts. And the structural damage and the budget overruns and the ex-fiancés who show up uninvited. He smiled. Especially those. Alex reached up, her hand cupping his face. Can I kiss you? We haven't actually done that yet, and I've been thinking about it for weeks. I've been thinking about it too. James lowered his head slowly. Yes. Please yes. Their lips met softly at first. Tentative. Then deeper as 9 days of missing each other poured into the kiss. James pulled her closer, and Alex's arms wrapped around his neck, and for a perfect moment, nothing else existed except this connection, this rightness, this feeling of coming home. When they finally pulled apart, both breathing harder, James rested his forehead against hers. That was worth waiting for, he said. We should probably do it again. Just to make sure. He laughed and kissed her again, longer this time, sweeter. When they separated, Alex was smiling genuinely for what looked like the first time in days. Come on, James said, glancing at the papers covering her desk. You need food and rest. When's the last time you ate? Lunch. Maybe. Maybe isn't an answer. He started gathering her things. We're getting dinner, and then I'm making sure you actually sleep tonight. Bossy. Concerned. There's a difference. They locked up her office and walked to his car. James opened her door, an old habit that made Alex smile. As he drove toward the restaurant district, she reached over and laced her fingers through his. Thank you, she said quietly. For the grant structure. For respecting my need for space. For coming to find me tonight. Thank you for letting me in. For trusting me with the hard stuff. I'm going to try to get better at that. At trusting. We'll both get better. Together. James lifted her hand and kissed her knuckles. That's how this works, right? We grow together. Yeah. Alex smiled out the window at the Charleston streets passing by. That's exactly how it works. For the first time in 9 days, James felt like he could breathe fully again. The fear that had been sitting in his chest dissolved, replaced by something stronger. Hope. Certainty. The absolute knowledge that whatever came next, they'd face it together. Not perfectly. Not without challenges. But honestly, openly, with the kind of partnership he'd stopped believing existed. The kind Alex's father had wanted for her. The kind James had been searching for without knowing it. And as they drove through the warm July night, hands linked, heading toward dinner and conversation and the future they were building, James understood something fundamental. He'd been waiting for years for this moment. For this person. For this feeling of absolute rightness. And she'd been worth every second of the wait. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button for more emotional and heart-touching stories that speak to the soul, and share your thoughts in the comments to tell us which story you want to hear next. Now let us continue. 3 months later, in late October 2024, the morning air carried the first hint of autumn coolness. James stood on the sidewalk outside the Eastside Community Center, watching construction crews put the finishing touches on what had once been a condemned building. The transformation was remarkable. Alex's vision had come to life, the original architecture honored and restored, new windows that flooded the interior with natural light, accessibility ramps that welcomed everyone, community spaces designed for connection and growth. It was beautiful. More than that, it was meaningful. Looking good, isn't it? James turned to find Dorothy Baptiste walking up, her face glowing with pride. Alex outdid herself, he said. She had help. Dorothy gave him a knowing look. The grant from your foundation made this possible. The whole neighborhood knows that, even if it was processed anonymously. The community coalition did the work. Alex designed it. I just moved some money around. You did more than that. Dorothy patted his arm. You believed in something that mattered. That counts for a lot. Inside, James could hear Alex's voice giving directions to the installation crew. He smiled at the sound. Over the past 3 months, he'd learned every inflection of that voice, the focused tone when she was problem-solving, the warm tone when she was pleased, the soft tone she reserved for private moments between them. He'd learned other things too. That she was not a morning person despite their early coffee tradition. That she cried during sappy commercials but stayed stoic through actual crises. That she loved with a fierceness that sometimes scared her but never held back once she committed. And James had committed. Completely. Is everything ready for tonight? Dorothy asked quietly. Should be. Assuming I don't lose my nerve. You won't. That girl loves you something fierce. Anyone with eyes can see it. James hoped she was right. Because tonight, at the community center's opening celebration, he was going to ask Alex Danvers to marry him. The decision had crystallized 2 weeks ago, on a Sunday morning at White Point Garden where they'd returned to their routine of coffee and sketching. Alex had been drawing the gazebo, and James had been watching her work, and suddenly he'd known with absolute clarity that he wanted every Sunday morning for the rest of his life to look exactly like this. He'd called his mother that afternoon. She'd been thrilled, if a bit concerned about the timeline. You've only known her 4 months, his mother had said gently. I know. But Mom, I've learned more about partnership and love in 4 months with Alex than I did in 2 years with Victoria. When you know, you know. His mother had laughed. Your father proposed after 3 months. Who am I to judge? I like her, James. She's good for you. She was good for him. Alex challenged him to be more present, more intentional, more willing to invest in things that mattered beyond profit margins. She'd encouraged him to restructure parts of Olsen Technologies to focus on community impact. To use his resources and expertise for projects that strengthened rather than extracted. And in return, James supported her work, celebrated her victories, and held space for her grief when it occasionally surfaced. He'd learned about her father through stories, his wisdom, his kindness, the way he'd taught Alex that love was action, not just feeling. James wished he could have met him. Asked his blessing for what he was about to do. But he'd settle for honoring his memory by being the kind of partner he'd wanted for his daughter. I should go, Dorothy said, checking her watch. Got to get my hair done before tonight. Big celebration deserves big hair. James laughed. I'll see you at 6. 6 sharp. And James? Good luck. Though I don't think you'll need it. The day passed in a blur of final preparations. James had coordinated with the event planners, confirmed the caterer, triple-checked that the small velvet box was still safely in his jacket pocket. He'd picked the ring carefully, a sapphire surrounded by diamonds, because Alex had once mentioned she preferred colored stones to traditional settings. He hoped she'd love it. More importantly, he hoped she'd say yes. By 5:30 p.m., guests were arriving. The community had turned out in force, families who would use the after-school programs, seniors who'd attended events in the original building decades ago, local business owners who'd supported the project, city council members who'd helped navigate permits. Alex stood near the entrance greeting everyone, radiant in a deep blue dress that made her skin glow. She'd left her locks down, and they framed her face beautifully. When she spotted James, her whole face lit up. There you are, she said, reaching for his hand. I was starting to think you got lost. Just taking care of some details. James kissed her cheek. You look stunning. You clean up pretty well yourself. She straightened his tie unnecessarily. Are you nervous? You seem nervous. Just excited. This is a big night. It really is. Alex looked around the transformed space, her eyes shining. I can't believe it's real. For months ago, this was an impossible dream. Now it's happening. That's what happens when brilliant people refuse to give up. And when stubborn billionaires create strategic grant programs. She squeezed his hand. Thank you. I know I've said it before, but thank you for believing in this. Always. James wanted to say more, wanted to tell her everything he'd been planning, but the program was starting. Dorothy took the microphone, welcoming everyone and sharing the history of the building. She talked about the neighborhood's resilience, the coalition's determination, and the vision that had brought them all together. Then she called Alex to the front. James watched Alex speak about the design process, the challenges, the incredible team that had made it possible. She was poised and professional, but he could see the emotion underneath. This project meant everything to her. When she finished, the crowd applauded thunderously. Alex stepped back, looking overwhelmed in the best way. That's when James made his move. He walked to the front, taking the microphone from Dorothy, who gave him an encouraging nod. I'm James Olsen, he began, and the room quieted. Most of you probably know me as the Foundation representative. But what you might not know is that I'm also incredibly lucky to be Alex Danvers' partner. Alex's eyes widened. This wasn't part of the program. 4 months ago, I walked into a coffee shop looking for decent coffee and maybe some human connection. I found both, but I also found something I didn't know I was searching for. James kept his eyes on Alex. I found someone who reminded me what it means to build something that matters. Someone who challenged me to be better, to think bigger, to care deeper. He could see Alex's hand go to her mouth, realization dawning. Alex, you've taught me that real strength isn't about standing alone. It's about knowing when to lean on people and when to let them lean on you. It's about partnership, honesty, and showing up for each other through the complicated parts and the beautiful parts. James walked toward her, the crowd parting. When he reached her, he could see tears in her eyes. I've waited 4 years for this moment, he said softly, just for her. 4 years since my engagement ended and I convinced myself I wasn't built for this kind of love. But you proved me wrong. You showed me what real partnership looks like. He dropped to one knee, pulling out the velvet box. The room went completely silent. Alex Danvers, you are the most remarkable person I've ever met. You're brilliant and passionate and brave enough to be vulnerable. You make me want to be the man your father hoped you'd find. Someone who shows up. Someone who stays. Someone who loves you exactly as you are while supporting who you're becoming. Alex was crying now, her hands pressed to her face. Will you marry me? James opened the box, the sapphire catching the light. Will you let me spend the rest of my life building a future with you, supporting your dreams, and loving you with everything I have? For a moment that felt like forever, Alex just stared at him. Then she laughed through her tears. You're proposing at my community center opening. I'm proposing at the culmination of something you built through determination and vision. Seemed appropriate. It's perfect. Alex dropped to her knees in front of him, taking his face in her hands. Yes. Absolutely yes. I'll marry you, James Olsen. The room erupted in applause and cheers. But James only heard his own heartbeat as he slipped the ring onto Alex's finger. It fit perfectly. I love you, he said, loud enough for only her to hear. I love you too. Alex kissed him, long and deep, and James forgot they had an audience until someone whistled loudly. They pulled apart laughing. Alex held up her hand, admiring the ring. A sapphire. You remembered. I remember everything you tell me. Dorothy appeared beside them with champagne glasses. A toast, she announced to the room. To Alex and James. To community. To love that builds instead of takes. To new beginnings. To new beginnings, the crowd echoed. James pulled Alex close, tucking her against his side as people swarmed to congratulate them. She fit there perfectly, like she'd always belonged. Later, after the formal program ended and the celebration shifted to music and dancing, James and Alex slipped outside for a moment of quiet. The October evening was cool, the stars just beginning to appear. My dad would have liked you, Alex said, leaning against the building. He would have appreciated how you showed up tonight. Making this moment about the community, not just us. I wanted to honor what matters to you. You did. She looked at her ring again, then up at him. I know we're doing this fast. 4 months is quick. Are you having doubts? Not even a little bit. Alex smiled. I'm just acknowledging that people might think we're rushing. But James, I've never been more certain of anything. You're it for me. You're it for me too. James pulled her close. We could have a long engagement if that makes you more comfortable. Or we could not. Alex's eyes were bright with mischief. I'm 33 years old. You're 37. We're not kids. We know what we want. Why wait? What are you suggesting? I'm suggesting we get married soon. Really soon. Maybe even before the end of the year. She laughed at his expression. Too fast? Not fast enough. James kissed her firmly. Let's do it. Small ceremony, people we love, focus on what matters. Deal. Though my best friend is going to lose her mind planning this on short notice. My mother is going to help her. Fair warning, they're both going to be intense about it. I can handle intense. Alex wrapped her arms around his neck. I'm marrying a billionaire CEO who proposed at a community center opening. Intense is kind of our thing. They stayed outside until Dorothy came looking for them, insisting the guests of honor couldn't hide all night. The party continued for hours, the community celebrating not just the building but the hope it represented. James danced with Alex under the new light fixtures she'd chosen, surrounded by people whose lives would be changed by this space. He met families, heard stories, understood viscerally why this project had mattered so much to her. This was what wealth should do. Create opportunity. Strengthen community. Build something lasting. Around midnight, as the celebration wound down, James and Alex helped with cleanup despite protests. It felt right to care for the space together, to be part of the community rather than above it. You know what I'm thinking? Alex said, folding tablecloths. What? I want to do more projects like this. Not just design work, but community-focused development that actually serves the people who live there. She looked at him. Your foundation model, it works. What if we expanded it? Created a whole program focused on neighborhood revitalization. I think that's brilliant. James stacked chairs. We could partner with local architects, invest in areas that get overlooked, create sustainable change. We. Alex smiled at the word. I like how that sounds. Better get used to it. We're going to be a we for a very long time. They finished cleaning and walked to James's car hand in hand. The drive back to his penthouse was quiet, both of them processing the enormous evening. Inside, Alex kicked off her heels with a sigh of relief. James poured them both wine, and they stood on the balcony overlooking Charleston Harbor. 4 months ago, you spilled coffee all over yourself, Alex said, leaning into his side. My finest moment. It really was, though. Because it gave me an excuse to talk to you. To see past the successful businessman to the person underneath. She turned to face him. You're a good man, James. The kind my father wanted me to find. The kind I'd stopped believing existed. You're the kind of partner I didn't know I needed. Someone who challenges me and supports me and isn't afraid to call me out when I'm hiding behind work. Oh, I'll definitely keep doing that. James laughed. I'm counting on it. They stood together in the October night, the city lights reflecting off the water, the future stretching ahead of them full of possibility. When should we tell your mother about the quick wedding timeline? Alex asked. Tomorrow. Let her have one night of traditional engagement excitement before we spring the rest on her. Fair. Alex sipped her wine. What about your work? The company? I'm promoting my COO to take over day-to-day operations. I'll stay on the board, handle strategic direction, but step back from the constant demands. I want time for the foundation work, for our partnership projects, for actually having a life. You've really thought this through. I started thinking it through the day you asked me what I actually wanted from my life. The answer is this. Us. Work that matters. Time to enjoy what we're building. Alex set down her wine glass and wrapped her arms around him. I love you so much. I love you too. James held her close, breathing in the scent of her perfume mixed with the evening air. Thank you for saying yes tonight. Thank you for asking in the most perfect way possible. They stayed on the balcony until the wine was gone and the night had deepened into early morning. Then James led Alex inside, and they fell into bed together, wrapped in each other and the certainty of what they'd found. 3 weeks later, on a Saturday afternoon in mid-November, James and Alex were married in White Point Garden under the gazebo where they'd had their second date. 50 people attended, close friends, family, Dorothy and members of the community coalition, James's business partners who'd become genuine friends. Alex wore a simple ivory dress and carried wildflowers. James wore his best suit and couldn't stop smiling. When it came time for vows, Alex went first. James, 4 months ago you walked into my life and reminded me that taking risks on love was worth it. You've shown up for every hard conversation, every complicated moment, every fear I've shared. You've supported my dreams while building your own. You've taught me that partnership isn't about losing myself, it's about finding someone who helps me become more fully who I am. I promise to love you honestly, challenge you lovingly, and build a life with you that honors both our dreams. I promise to be your partner in every sense of the word, today and always. James took a breath, steadying himself. Alex, you've changed everything about how I see the world. You've taught me that success isn't measured in profits but in impact. That real strength includes vulnerability. That love is action, not just feeling. Your father was right to want someone who shows up for you. I promise to be that person every single day. I promise to support your work, celebrate your victories, and hold you through the hard moments. I promise to build a future with you that matters, that serves something bigger than ourselves, that honors the love we've found. You're my partner, my best friend, my home. Today and always. The officiant pronounced them married, and James kissed his wife as their small gathering erupted in applause. At the reception, held at a historic venue overlooking the harbor, Dorothy gave a toast that made everyone cry. James's mother welcomed Alex to the family with genuine warmth. Alex's best friend gave a speech about how she'd never seen Alex this happy, this fully herself. As the evening wound down, James and Alex slipped away to the venue's garden. The November air was cool but not cold, perfect for a quiet moment. "We did it," Alex said, admiring her wedding band next to her engagement ring. "We really did." James pulled her close. "How do you feel?" "Complete. Happy. Ready for whatever comes next. Even if it's complicated?" "Especially if it's complicated. That's when we're at our best, remember? Working through things together." James kissed her forehead. "I have something for you. A wedding gift." "We said no gifts. This one couldn't wait." He pulled an envelope from his jacket. "Open it." Alex opened the envelope carefully. Inside was a letter on official foundation letterhead. She read it once, then again, her eyes widening. "James, this is a commitment for $5 million toward community development projects over the next 5 years. With you as the lead architectural consultant and project director. If you want it." James watched her face. "I know you love your independent practice, and this wouldn't replace that. But it would give you resources to take on the kind of transformational projects you dream about. The ones that actually change lives. This is incredible." Alex looked up at him, tears in her eyes. "But this is huge. Are you sure?" "I've never been more sure of anything. Except marrying you." James cupped her face. "This is our work now. Our partnership. Building things that matter, together." Alex kissed him deeply, pouring everything into it, gratitude and love and excitement for the future they were creating. When they pulled apart, she was smiling through happy tears. "Your mom was right. You really are one of the good ones. I try. Especially when I have the right partner pushing me to be better." They returned to the reception hand in hand, ready to celebrate with their people, ready to start this new chapter. As James watched Alex dance with Dorothy, laughing and radiant, he felt a profound sense of rightness settle over him.